live a couple of seconds early just to warm you up, like on the Johnny Carson show. A comedian comes out and warms up the audience. So I'm here to warm up the audience before Ken does his show. Oh, heck, it's 6 p.m. already. I hardly had time to warm you up. I hope you're sufficiently warm. All right. Got a cat up in the cat tree. Keep an eye on you. Or me. Not sure. All right. Hi, Kathy. And Kathy, a nice little tree, but you got to be careful. They're very expensive at the like PetSmart and stuff. Get it online from someplace or Costco. These trees are expensive, or kitty condo, they call them sometimes. Also, don't forget, cat litter, tidy clean. Tidy cat. Doesn't dust up as much. Get the clumping litter. Just trying to tell you how to have a kitty. Because when you got a kitty, you're going to dig it. Hey, Sarah, welcome to the party. Or it's really not a party. Today's Manic Monday. Yep, Manic Monday. So I don't know what you do on Manic Monday, but you all ought to be a little manic. Well, it's not my fault it's a long time no see. You can drop in here 6 p.m. to 6:45 any day, Monday through Saturday, and we can visit with each other, so to speak. Hi, Liza. So I was just explaining to Kathy before y'all got here how to have a kitty. If you're only going to have one kitty, I still think, these kitty condos are the coolest, and we can talk anytime. Hi, Chris, and I'll hope Becky's with you. All right, it's just another Manic Monday, but maybe a little bit more manic than most Manic Mondays, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to tell you why, because we are 2 days away from January 20th. January 20th will be the inauguration. And, listen, I'm 68 years old. I done lived through some stuff. I lived through Kennedy's assassination. Of course, I lived through Eisenhower. I lived through Kennedy's assassination. I lived through Nixon's resignation. I lived through 2 Bushes and a Clinton and Obama. I done been down the political path quite a while. You ain't never seen no inauguration or pre-inauguration like this in your life, okay? Hi, Lisa. So I keep telling y'all, you are living historic stuff. The pandemic, completely, totally historic. We don't even know, because none of us were alive, if the flu epidemic in the early 1900s, how that compared to this. But in modern times, or by modern times, I mean, from the 1920s on, no, there's been no pandemic like this, okay? Historic. Trump, every minute that Trump was president or is president is historic, which is why this is Manic Monday, because it's the Monday that precedes the end of the Trump presidency and the beginning of the Biden presidency. And so we're all slightly manic, and, because we don't know, until he's officially out of office, we don't know what's going to happen. I woke up this morning. I turn on the news first thing. It's usually about 4:45 in the morning when I wake up. Well, thank you, Tammy. It's nice to see you. I woke up at 4:45. On the banner at the bottom of the news was Trump discussed 100 pardons in the last 2 days, right? I knew what you meant, Tammy. 100 pardons, I don't know that I care, but given the nature of the last 4 years, of course, anxieties are up. Like, what is that? 100 in the last 2 days? It's a little unusual. So what's going on? And then there are people who are reporting. There's a guy that reached out to Giuliani looking for a pardon, and he was told for $2 million, Giuliani to hook him up. And they're now finding out, New York Times finding out, that the offer to sell pardons was pretty much out there. Now, here's what you're wondering, but you didn't know to ask. Hi, Debbie. So, and Mark and Ann. Here's what you need to know about the legalities of a purchased pardon. The closest I can come to a purchased pardon is a purchased not guilty. It happened in Chicago around 1987. A mobster hitman, whose name I used to know almost as well as my own, he went on trial for murder. And in the course of doing that, they paid the judge $10,000 to find him not guilty. Now, I'd have been suspicious that he went with a bench trial as opposed to a jury, because when you're on trial for murder, you usually want 12 people in the box, not one, because judges can be quite harsh. But he got not guilty, and he went on about his business. When Operation Greylord broke in Chicago, and judges, police officers, legal law clerks, lawyers got arrested and charged with crimes. The crime that one came out was that this hitman had bribed the judge for not guilty. He argued that under the law, a not guilty removes you from ever being tried for the same crime again. You've heard of it. It's called double jeopardy. Well, the thing went up to the Illinois Supreme Court, and the Illinois Supreme Court ruled as follows, and then I'll come back to the pardon. A bribed trial is not a trial for purposes of double jeopardy. In other words, it was not a legitimate trial. Therefore, it's not a legitimate finding of not guilty, and they made him go to trial again, and he went to prison. Why I'm telling you this is I believe that any of these pardons, which will turn out to be what in the law they call quid pro quo. That means you gave something to get something. So you didn't just apply, you're not John Doe who did some time or is doing time, and there's some pretty good facts that you're not guilty, or that the sentence was too long, or you were quite young and now you're old, or you've done so many things to contribute to society, you've demonstrated reformation and rehabilitation that's just ironclad, right? No, that's not the kind of pardon we're talking about. We're talking about a pardon where somebody says, listen, here's $20,000, here's $5,000, here's $2 million, whatever it is, I need a pardon. And as a result of that payment, they receive a pardon. That is quid pro quo. They gave something to get something. And I believe the courts will be able to undo those pardons, and those people that gave money in anticipation of a pardon and did subsequently receive the pardon will find that their pardon does not hold up in court if it's challenged. Now, I don't expect that every pardon will be challenged on the basis that it was paid for, but I'm just telling you. Now, the next thing is, can I just pardon anybody? Under the law, the President of the United States can pardon anybody only for federal crimes. That is, crimes which are charged in a federal court and are adjudicated in a federal court. And the President has no jurisdiction over state court, no ability to pardon, no ability to do really anything as far as a state court goes. So the first obstacle in getting pardoned is, can your crime still be charged in a state court? If it can, it probably will be. But the second part is, at some point, is the giving of pardons to friends, family, and persons that are kind of looped around your circle, is that really constitutionally able? In other words, this thing we call plenary, unchallenged power. Can it actually be challenged? Is there a way to challenge it, and on what basis? Well, the Constitution would seem to indicate that the president has unfettered power to give out pardons. I believe that if he goes out on a limb and starts sawing it off by giving out pardons to too many people that he's affiliated with or that were involved in the riot at the Capitol, I think there's going to be a challenge. And I think that a lot of judges will seriously look at and entertain the possibility that there is some sort of inherent limitation. Everything we know in the law carries some limitation. Every right, so if I have a right to drive, which I do, some call it a privilege, some states call it privilege, some call it right. Once I get my driver's license, I pass the test. I demonstrate to my state that I have met all the requirements for a bona fide driver, and I've received my driver's license. I now have a privilege, or AKA right, it depends, to drive. But you already know where I'm going. There are significant limitations on what you can do as a driver. And this is pretty much for every right or privilege given. That right can be encumbered, that privilege can be taken away. Driver's licenses are typically considered a privilege. As such, you'll know that some of you have already had your licenses taken away at various times in your life. And you're like, but I need it. Yeah, well, that was a privilege and you abused the privilege. Therefore, the state was able to take away your driving privileges. You know, people talk about, well, the Second Amendment. You know, I've got a right, an inalienable right, a God-given right to have a gun and to buy a gun, whatever. And the answer is, or the response is, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. Even as the owner of the gun range, as an owner of a gun store, as a guy who's got guns, okay? The answer is you're wrong. You're simply wrong, okay? Second Amendment or no Second Amendment, you're wrong. Why are you wrong? Because every right that's been given under the Constitution carried responsibility, right? You know that. We talk about free speech. You cannot say anything you want. Two examples we use in the law is, one, you can't yell fire in a movie theater because you cause a panic, people get hurt. The other one is you just simply can't lie about somebody and call it protected speech. If you call somebody, if you accuse somebody of something that they didn't do, you're probably committing defamation. Well, unless you make them look better, then there's not usually a defamation case. But under the law, if you call the housewife a whore, they were automatically going to be given monetary damages, because for a woman who maintained a household, or even a professional woman, to be called a whore was such an impugning of their reputation, damages were presumed. So there's two parts to a defamation case. One, somebody has to prove you lied. And then two, somebody has to prove they were damaged as a result of the lie. But there are certain accusations, which are lies, which the courts already have agreed carry damages because of the assault to the reputation. Trump is an excellent example. He's been called everything, and he's never sued anybody in his 4 years as president for defamation. And I've talked about it here. Okay. I'm deviating a little bit from free speech, but just stick with me. All right. So books have been written by people who knew Donald Trump, and they made accusations. And those accusations cast him in a very bad light. And if they were lies, he'd had no trouble whatsoever going into a court and saying that author, Mary Trump, John Bannon, or whatever, Steve Bannon, the guy with the mustache, Bolton, these people, Michael Cohen, they lied about me. And because they lied about me, they've impugned my reputation as president of the United States. But he didn't sue anybody. And the reason he didn't sue anybody is because what they said was true, and truth is always a defense to defamation. So we don't have this unrestricted right to speak. We don't have an unrestricted right to guns. We don't have an unrestricted right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's typically adjudicated that your right to pursue happiness ends when you cause somebody else unhappiness. Now, that doesn't apply to businesses. Like Facebook has made a lot of us miserable. Okay, we don't get to accuse them and get money. But if I trample somebody else's rights in the pursuit of my own, then I'm probably already in legal trouble. So everything has its limits, and I believe that the right to pardon, if he goes too far, will probably be challenged, and I wouldn't be surprised if we find that it creates a case in one of the courts, two of the courts, whatever it is, that the pardon, some of these pardons, will be overthrown. That's just my opinion. You heard it here on Manic Monday, which is January 18th, 2021. So, yeah. So, I've talked before about that whole defamation and Donald Trump, so I won't beat that dead horse. But, I just wanted to make it clear then and now that nothing anybody said about the Donald was false, because this is what he's referred to as the most litigious man in America. And there's a reason he's called that, because he's sued everybody and their mother. In return, he's been sued by everybody and their mother. Okay? So he knows. He's got the lawyers to tell him, listen, hey, Sam, welcome. He's got the lawyers that would have told him, listen, if Michael Cohen is lying about you in his book, we can shut him down. Now, you can't shut a book down before it's published. That's a rare and extraordinary thing. Let's talk about that just for a minute, okay? If you know a publication's coming out and you want to stop it because you don't like the way it's going to treat you, good luck. You can go in any court. Most courts are going to kick you to the curb. They'll tell you that if it's defamatory, come back and argue it was defamation, and then we'll give you some money. But they will almost never resort to stopping the publication of something. Again, it's got to do with that, speech and publication and stuff. All right, so would have been. So it's Manic Monday, and it's Manic Monday. I call it Manic Monday. I put in the link to the song Manic Monday by the Bangles, because if you're not on the edge of your seat yet, then you didn't watch the news. You just not watch the news. 25,000 National Guard assigned to Washington, D.C. in anticipation of potential trouble at what is the inauguration. Wait, there's now an additional, over 5,000 additional troops who are being brought in, active military. These are not National Guard. These are guys that are full-time military. They didn't have to be called up. They just had to be mobilized. And the reason they're being brought in is these are people who already have specific talents that they believe could be useful, such as bomb ordnance or ordnance diffusing. I don't know what they call that, but I do know, but it's not coming to me. Liza says Melania has not invited Mr. Biden for a tour of the House, which has been a tradition for first ladies. What is your opinion? I do have an opinion. I don't think that Jill Biden, Dr. Biden, wants to go on a tour of the White House with Melania. I don't think Joe Biden wants President Trump at his inauguration. I think that we have an extraordinary circumstance in the United States of America. We have such polarization and division that I don't believe that the incoming administration has much in the way of high regard for the outgoing administration. So I don't think that the absence of protocols or the absence of pleasantries is going to really adversely affect anybody. I think we all have to kind of agree to put standard operating procedure on hold and just get through this. If Melania and Donald are on the golf course starting tomorrow and they don't come back to Washington, you're not going to hear a peep on anybody like me. I think that this they don't belong in the same room, and it'll be fine. Uh, Listen, Joe Biden is doing everything he can in the next 48 hours to just not get caught up in all of this mishigas that's going on with the Trump administration. The Trump administration has cut the legs out from what's called the incoming administration. I'll explain to you how we know this. They've stopped providing information on almost anything that an incoming administration. So a tour of the White House is nominal compared to the fact that they're no longer sharing information about the COVID virus, the pandemic, about how many vaccines are available, how many people are sick from COVID, what plans do they have. They're not letting FEMA share. They're not letting the Department of Defense share. Nothing that would normally have been done is being done. And those things are more important because Biden has a cabinet that's going to want to be up and ready. And so the more information they had at the time is so that it's as seamless as possible, so that Biden becomes inaugurated and then he's officially the president and he begins to make some modifications to the world we live in, the United States. It's going to be very tough for him to address the COVID-19 issue. He'll do the best he can, but he will be handicapped. He will be hindered by the fact that a lot of the information that he should have had has been withheld. Same thing with security briefings. He's been cut off from security briefings. That's unheard of. Okay. In the history, modern history of the United States, the incoming president was pre-notified of the security briefings so they could be ready on day one. It's not happening. So Debbie says Trump is using the plane on Wednesday morning for her to bring them to Florida before he has to give it to Biden. You know, there's a fairly legitimate article that says that Trump asked the military to kind of put on their best show on Thursday, on the day of the inauguration. He wanted to disrupt the inauguration, in a sense, by putting on his own private show, his own independent show, I should say. So instead of being at the inauguration and seeing the smooth transition of power, he's mad. And so what he wanted to do is he asked the military to provide him with kind of a show. And it's not uncommon for the military to put on a show for an outgoing president because he is commander in chief. And by that, I mean, all the branches of the armed forces would appear and representatives, and they would kind of pay homage to the outgoing commander in chief for his service to the country. The U.S. military has said that's not going to happen. You know, you can use Marine One, the helicopter. You can use Air Force One, as Debbie's alluded to fly to Florida. You can do these things. You're not getting a show. You're toxic, man. You're like nobody wants the beating that's associated with getting near him anymore. Even the military. Listen, he probably, and this is I'm guessing, he probably reached out to high-ranking military in an attempt to prevent Biden from taking the presidency. And I'll tell you why I think that. It hasn't been published, but this is what was published. The Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States of America, this is the ranking military across the spectrum, issued a letter a week ago or so telling all military personnel, active and inactive military personnel, that the military absolutely was not choosing political sides, and that what happened on January 6th at the Capitol was, in fact, insurrection. That's what they called it. They called the rioters insurrectionists, and they said that they in no way would condone or in any way were they, going along with that. So why would the Joint Chiefs of Staff, for the first time in the history of the United States that we know of, issue a letter to all military personnel a week before an inauguration trying to, and my guess is because at some point, either Trump himself or one of his people said, if he was robbed of the election, because that's the story, if he was robbed the election and he's being illegally bounced from office, shouldn't you step in, go to Wisconsin, go to Georgia, go to Pennsylvania, secure these polling places, and let's do it again? And the military absolutely, unequivocally has said repeatedly, no. All the former national security advisors, all the former top generals, I don't know about all of them because I don't know how many there were, have published letters admonishing military personnel not to take up against the government, and in particular against Biden, that this was a legitimate election. So you got that going on. Thus, why I say it's Manic Monday, man, because all this is percolating under the surface. This podcast isn't about throwing Trump under the bus. It's about trying to explain to you, identify to you, why I think that this Monday is probably more manic than a lot of them. Now, preceding Georgia's runoff vote, you were probably on the edge of your seat, whether you were Republican or Democrat. You were probably right. Okay. And the same thing before the general election when it was Trump versus Biden. You've had many a Monday, but most Mondays in the past were a return to work. Most Mondays historically in your lifetime, for most of you, was return to work. It was the end of the weekend. It was the end of the party. It was the end of relaxing, whatever it was. It was usually the end of and the beginning of the work week. Most of you don't even have a job anymore, or if you have a job, you're working from home. So Monday doesn't have the same connotation it used to have. So what distinguishes Mondays now? Well, typically, Monday wasn't much different from Sunday. Sunday's not different from Sunday. I mean, it's pandemic, man. Since most of us don't have a gig to go to, there wasn't much reason really to differentiate the day of the week except for your TV guide. Yeah. I know which shows I want to watch and what days a week they're on. So I have to remember if today's Thursday, I want to watch whatever it is. So no. This Monday, this Tuesday, this Wednesday, you're going to be like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Is something wrong going to happen? Is something bad going to happen? Is one of these state capitals that is securing its capital with National Guard, with state police, with local law enforcement, never heard of, never seen before in the history of the United States, a simultaneous threat against all 50 states by insurrectionists. Solid, reliable conspiracies percolating, the FBI is keenly aware of and gives credence to. The attempts will be made, if they, or at least are being planned, to attack, physically assault the capitals of each of the states. Even Texas, which has kissed Trump's behind for 4 years, has had to call in additional state troopers, has locked down the Capitol, is no longer allowing people to come into the Capitol. It's Texas, of all places. How does Texas get threatened by persons who are knowingly in support of Trump? I mean, this is not Antifa, hiding out as Trump supporters. This is not Black Lives Movement, right? This is persons that the FBI knows primarily because they have been under surveillance, because we know that, 6 months to a year ago, the FBI published a report, gave a report in conjunction with the Department of Homeland Security, gave it to Congress and said the number one risk to national security, terrorist threat, domestic terrorism, will come from white supremacy groups, which are now operational in the United States. And that is the groups that they're monitoring, that they now tell you and me are targeting all 50 states. Do they have the resources? Do they have the manpower? I have no clue. Apparently, Governor Abbott thinks they must, because he locked down the state capitol, called in all kinds of backup. So that's Texas. Now pretend you're Michigan, which these people hate. They hate the governor. They hate the attorney general. They hate everything about Michigan. So they already, plotted to kill her, the governor. So imagine what kinds of potential threat the Michigan state capitol, the Michigan politicians are facing. If Texas is apprehensive, if I'm the governor of Michigan, whoa, man, I'm tripped out. I'm like, oh my God, what is going to happen, right? So, why I call it Manic Monday. If you're paying attention, this is a time and a place in history that just keeps unfolding. It's been doing that, but nothing really was as prominent as an attack on the capital of the United States of America, with the encouragement, the manipulation, the amplification of the president of the United States. Hey, Leonard. Hi. So, by the way, those of you that are listening, if you want to make a comment, feel free to comment. I'm reading them. I don't always stop and talk about them, but I'm reading them, and you're welcome to interact, man. You can call me all kinds of names. Well, if you do, I probably will. I'll probably hurt your feelings. Will you be riding your bike on Wednesday? No, because it's going to rain. One thing I don't do, Liza, I don't ride in the rain, and I understand it's supposed to rain on Wednesday. If it ain't raining, I'm riding. I'm not going to really pay much attention to inauguration personally, because I don't usually pay attention to inaugurations. I don't have a big investment. Joe Biden's going to be president. This is going to be, I believe, a significant part of it's going to be virtual. That is, well, no, the whole thing in a sense is virtual, because nobody is going to be allowed to attend the inauguration, I believe, except members of Congress and Joe Biden's immediate guests. Members of Congress, imagine that. Members of Congress, imagine that. Do you all understand another historical footnote that's going on right now? The FBI is investigating multiple congressional representatives because they are believed to have either, one, participated in the preliminary planning of the attack on the Capitol, or they aided and abetted those that broke into the Capitol on that day. In particular, this freshman lady, congressional representative from Colorado, who there seems to be the accusation and possibly some evidence that she texted Pelosi and others' whereabouts to Twitter, so that these people would know where to look for her. Hey, Donna, welcome. So that's pretty dramatic. If she did that, I believe she can be accused of a crime, and I hope she will be. Now, then today, two other representatives from Congress, of course, I believe they're both Democrats, so, let's say, nothing's proven yet, claim that she led a large group on a tour of the building. Now, the Capitol building has been closed due to COVID. There's been very little reason for anybody to go into the Capitol in the time of the pandemic, is my understanding. The building's open, but you had to have a pass. To get a pass, you had to have somebody. Well, the Capitol Police cannot prohibit a member of Congress pretty much from anything. The Capitol Police serve Congress, which is why when this woman from Colorado went around the metal detector, she did not want her gun to be taken from her or to be identified, whatever it is. She refused to go through the metal detector. She walked around it. The reason that she was able to do that is, as a member of Congress, the Capitol Police do not interfere with them. They protect them. They don't interfere. Nancy Pelosi could order the sergeant at arms to do something, or maybe she could order the Capitol Police. Anyways, Nancy's imposed a $5,000 fine if she tries to do it again. So anyways, this woman was seen giving a tour. She has issued a statement through her staff that she gave nobody a tour. So now it boils down to, we have two definitive statements. One, she was seen with a group of people. Two, she denies there was any tour. Not that the tour was harmless or that they weren't, she didn't argue, yeah, well, I gave a tour, but it was just some friends from Colorado that were visiting. No. She said she didn't give any tours. So if they find out that, in fact, she did give a tour, then I believe, again, her ass needs to be in jail. But it could just be subterfuge, Democrats, Republicans trying to get each other. But when I listen to her talk, I'm like, lock her up, lock her up, lock her up. All right. So welcome again to Manic Monday. You can tell from the way I ran my lips nonstop that I'm having a Manic Monday, right? I didn't take a breath for the last 35 minutes. Once it got wound up, it was like Energizer Bunny. You just turned me loose. I ran my lips, didn't have to breathe. All I had to do was keep sharing with you this myriad of thoughts that just keeps percolating about these next 48 hours. I mean, it's historic, is what I said in the beginning. And it's historic. It's monumentally historic. 25,000 armed National Guard at the Capitol for the next 2 days minimum is historic. 7,000 active duty military being brought in to support them, historic. The FBI fanning out across the United States, making what is already over 100 arrests, I believe, historic. You've never seen anything like this. You never lived through anything like this. The closest thing to this was 9/11. Leonard says, I bet she just gets a slap on the hand. Leonard, I think there's a strong probability you're right. But I want to go on record as saying, I hope she gets slapped with the book up the side of her head. I hope it knocks her out. Okay? Just my feeling. When she got elected, she said, I'm going to wear a gun into the Congress. Now, several Congress people have said they're afraid of being killed by a member or members of Congress. I'm going to guarantee you they're worried about her. I'm going to guarantee you that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and all those kind of progressive Democrats are afraid that this woman is so out of her freaking mind that if she's permitted to carry a gun into the chambers, that it's possible she will sacrifice herself in order to get them. I mean, this woman has said nothing to allay anybody's fears or anxiety that she's nuts, number one, and two, nuts in a dangerous way, okay? So, so when she gets slapped, if I could be there, I would like to use something solid, a law book, a Bible, something with a little heft to it, and the hand, no, the head. So, anyways, pretty soon it will be Manic Tuesday, but I don't have a song called Manic Tuesday. So tomorrow I will probably put the link to a different song. But if you want to listen to the Bangles singing Manic Monday, I've made it easy for you. I've put it right into the topic part here, the description. You just have to click it, go. It's just another Manic Monday. And I think Chris said, there's another lyric, I forget. It's not Sunday. Somebody said that. It was a while ago. Yeah, see, Mark said it's not Sunday, which I think is also in the lyrics, but I don't know. Oh, by the way, so this woman, what is it? Is it Christy Swanson? So she was in, if someone is homicidal and ED is placed to hold a person for a psychiatric evaluation. If somebody is homicidal, you'll have to redo that. So I follow emergency detention. That requires a court case. That's not easy to do. Getting somebody held on emergency detention in any court requires a pretty compelling case. I used to work in the juvenile courts. In order to take a kid from a parent, you had to show urgent and immediate necessity. In order for anybody to lose their freedom without having committed a crime in advance, to incarcerate somebody for any period of time in the absence of evidence of a crime, you really have a burden you have to show to a court, and you must have a hearing, and that person must be allowed to respond to that. Now, if they don't show up, then they don't get to respond. But if they get the summons that they're supposed to get for the hearing, then all they have to do is act sane, and they're not going to be detained. At least that's my experience. But I'm just telling you my experience as a lawyer. So it's 6:40. I'm winding down. Listen, I'm not kidding around. I said I'm ready for whatever. I have already gone on record calling out the baddest people I could think of. I've not withheld from you, from Facebook, or anywhere else, Zoom or anything. I have not withheld my personal opinion about persons who I believe are a threat, QAnon, whoever they are, right? So I think it would be folly for me to be walking around unprepared, even though I believe I'm nominal, I'm marginal, I'm minimalist. No reason anybody should pay attention. But when people are looking for people to hurt, what is the criteria? I'm finding out that Mike Pence could have been killed by a crowd that he probably adores. So if they're willing to kill the guys on their side, what are they willing to do to the people that are openly mocking them, publicly mocking? I don't know. So real quick. Yep. Okay. And there's more where that came from. So me, I'm like, hey, man, you know, it's wacky out there. It's whacked, man. Stuff I read. Let me finish up by saying this. People who are clinging ideas that were used to radicalize them from an American citizen to a Christian intifada. Those persons who stood in the Capitol and were praying together in this really loud and raucous fashion, praying for Donald and Ted Cruz, and praying to suppress and defeat and overcome the Congress of the United States. Okay? That's some crazy stuff. You people got nervous when you saw American citizens from around the country who were Muslim, who were Middle Eastern and were Muslim, who were either arrested on their way to the Middle East to join the intifada, or they were caught with guns and ammunition and stuff in their homes, and some sort of on the internet admission of their intention to commit acts of violence in the name of Islam. Okay, you have the same exact circumstances of people who were probably just Christian, just like some of these people were just Muslim, who have now been radicalized by virtue of their participation on Facebook, Parler, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever it is. They have been radicalized. Make no mistake. They drank the poison. The poison is coursing through their bodies, and it's telling them to respond to events with religious fervor, and to treat Donald Trump as the Messiah. And that is the most dangerous stage of our history that we have entered into in any of your lifetimes. This is far more dangerous than 9/11 because that was a foreign attack by foreigners. This is a domestic attack by U.S. citizens. So the word is intifada, Jim. All right. And just Google it, I assure you. All right, it's time to go. So I'm going to do some metta. I'm going to bring my hands before my heart. And I mean it. I'm really going to send out loving kindness and goodwill. I promise it and I do it. I close my eyes. I bow my head. I take a deep breath. May I be happy, healthy, and free from harm. And I hope you're following along, saying this to yourself silently. Or you could say it out loud. You're not in the room. May I be free from all harm. May I be free from anger, anxiety, and fear. May this practice bring me greater peace and comfort. May my mother and father and all my family members and all my friends be happy, be healthy, be free from harm. May they too find the path that leads them to freedom from all suffering and know the affection I carry in my heart for them. May those persons I find difficult, persons that I resent or harbor any ill will towards, take a moment, think if there's anybody you can recall, and send them loving kindness. May they be happy, healthy, free from harm. May they be enjoying lives of peace, comfort, joy. And to all living beings throughout the universe, let us as a collective consciousness, as a community, send out loving kindness from our hearts like light so that it shines in every part of the universe. May all living beings, humans and non-humans, be happy, healthy, free from harm. May all living beings be safe, comfortable, and at peace. Satu, Satu, Satu. Well, thank you, Joan and Lisa and Kathy and everybody else that was here. If you're still here, Liza and Jim and Mark and Ann and Chris and Becky, I think. Leonard may have stuck around, and Debbie and Tammy and Liza and Sam and Gus. And wow, we had a nice little group here today, man. Sarah, if she stuck around, I hope she did. If I missed anybody, I apologize. But by the way, I had lunch with my friend Ginny today, a bicycle rode with Cindy yesterday, and tomorrow I'm going to walk with Cynthia. I'm like a pig in a trough, baby. I got all these wonderful people, females to boot, that are willing to spend as little as an hour, or as much as a couple of hours with me, either walking or riding or dining. I'm a blessed guy. Debbie, thank you. Chris, thank you. Travis, thank you. And Eliza and anybody else. Bless you guys, man. You held me together one more day. If you hold me through 2 more days, if you can just show up and keep me from flipping out for 2 more days, I think once Biden is president, I should feel something remotely chill, right? Anyways, peace out.